So yeah, he was a superstar in Japan. Had nothing to do with Godzilla, but a superstar in Japan, and so I want to be like him. In the day, it was very hard actually to become a superstar. He wanted to join an agency somewhere, but it was very hard to get in. There was a thing they called New Face. It's a way to bring in new people to become famous, but it was called the New Face method. It's kind of like American Idol or something like that, but for movie stars. They're trying to find the newest face to bring them up to stardom. I got a nice picture taken and I sent it in. There's 3 steps that you have to go through. You have to pass to get up to the top. I screwed up from the very first step. Maybe I'm not meant to be a movie star. Well, you look at my face. Also, you thought about becoming a superstar. So he looks in the mirror and says, "Well, maybe this face will not get me to stardom after all." And so I gave it up for a while. And then I started working at an actual average company in Japan. It was a steel company. It was the 3rd biggest steel company in Japan at the time that I started working for. And I was employed by them. And it's kind of like a temporary, they're fully employed, but it's kind of temporary. You have to prove yourself for the first year. He's always been a very hot person. He was really on fire all the time, and he's working in a steel plant, and that was very hot too. Basically it's the place that actually takes the steel and makes it into a shape. That was the department that he worked for. And so what they're basically going to do, they take out all the impurities as it's still on. They take out all the impurities and make something as perfect as possible. And basically, he was there to make the shape of, after the impurities have been taken out, he'd make the shape in the best perfect shape that he could of the steel, whatever it was they're making. As the steel comes out, it's liquid and it comes in and starts becoming a shape, and then it starts getting harder and solider, and it starts adding up and getting taller and taller and bigger and coming into the shape that they want. But it's very hot there. I sweated a lot. And there was salt on one side and water on the other, and he throws salt in his mouth and water, and he's moving to place to place. It was really hot. It was terrible. Oh, I guess it's those. Yeah, he needed to drink water and eat some salt to keep all the things impurities From himself, inside his body, yeah. He wanted, because of all the salt coming out of his body from the sweat, he wanted to put it back in. So he felt like he's just going to fall over every time he's working. So salt in, water in, sweat out. Salt in, water in, sweat out, make a piece of steel. So I don't think that needs explanation. I mean, yeah.
そうなるともう仕事できないので、もう意地でね、仕事それを飲んでカッと入れて、熱いんだから、そのインゴットテーションの上がこう燃えてるわけだね、鬼だから。
Yeah. And so it's continuing, well, just continue to eat salt and water, and then these things just kept getting bigger and bigger and hotter, and they're on fire. And
それでね、ある程度この挟まってくると、蓋が置いてある、インゴットのテーションの上に。で、蓋をしてこう、そのように引っ張る。
As it gets to a certain size and a certain shape, he has to pull it out. He pulls it out with some kind of tool. And there's a timing thing to it. Before it gets to the permanent shape that it is, they have to pull it at the right time. So there's always a timing to pull it at the right time before it completely hardens. And so they do it many times over and over again. So it's red hot. It's kind of like looking for a Godzilla thing, or yeah, it's really hot, and your feet are really hot, and the whole thing is bright red. And your feet are in between. You have a very small space to put your feet without stepping on these things. And he was wearing the geta are the special Japanese sandals.
Wooden sandals.
Yeah, the wooden sandals. He was wearing the wooden sandals while he was working like this. So you're working with fire and you got wood sandals on. Not a good thing, probably. Yeah. These safety boots and stuff, because it has steel inside the tip of it, it's too hot to wear safety boots because it's just too hot. So he put on the geta instead. At the beginning, the geta are actually, they're all kind of like on little stilts. They're really tall sandals. And because it's so hot, he starts shrinking his size because it's starting to burn out the bottoms of the sandals. And so the biggest problem he has with getting new geta all the time. So he was busy trying to get this piece of steel into the right position before it completely hardened, and at the same time he had to keep changing his geta. Kept him very busy. And he had to be very quick. The whole thing had to be quick, so he had his own system. Would you like me to explain that? It's the truth, people! And making a long story short, I became very good at handling hot things. I didn't know I'd become Godzilla, but it really helped with that first job. Yeah. We owe it to the steel company for making Mr. Godzilla for us. Yes.
So what happened? Did you end up leaving the steel company, or did it bring you into Toho?
それね、1年間、無遅刻、無欠勤、1日もやった。
For the whole year, the good thing about it is for the whole year, he was never late. He didn't take a day off. He stayed for the whole year.
そしたら本採用になった。本採用、臨時校から社員になった。
And because he done so well the first year, instead of it was just temporary for the first year, he did so well they wanted him to become a member, an actual employee of the company.
それ本当の話だよ。
This is a real story, people. Just wanted to make sure you know.
Real life stuff.
そしたらね、 その会社は神戸にあったわけ。
This was a company in Kobe. Yeah, they're famous for steel. Yes.
そしたら千葉の方に
It was in Kobe. They wanted me to go to Chiba, which is closer to Tokyo than to Kobe.
大きな製鉄所を作るわけ。
It's a big company and makes big things out of
千葉
steel.
工場。それで白羽の矢が立って、お前千葉へ行け。
And so the people above me says, we want you to go to Chiba.
真夏だね。真夏に。
And so,
真夏。
so in the middle of summer, they sent me to another hotter place in Chiba.
すごいまた業界職でね、同じようなことやってこのでかい人でやってたわけだ。
And basically, they made me do the same thing in a bigger version of it.
体力は体力は。
I've got a lot of power, I've got a lot of stamina.
そしたら仕事が終わって3交代だから終わって寮に入ってるから寮に入ったら。
He lives in the company-owned apartments. He lived in company-owned apartments, and there was 3 shifts. And he would handle 1 shift, then he'd go back to the apartment.
から新聞を見たら日活の日経に入ってたの新聞の中に。
And even though before he had tried to become a new face by sending his picture, he had gotten the steel company in Chiba. And as his shift was over, he went back to his apartment. He saw in the newspaper they were having another new face audition type of contest or something. Yeah.
よせばいいのにまたどこへ出しちゃったわけだ。ね。
And he said, well, I'll probably get the same result, but I sent in my picture again.
そういうね、夢がまだね、消えてなかった。
And even though I thought I'd given it up, my dream was still in my mind and heart.
よせばいいのにまたちょっと出した。
I should just forget it, but I sent in my stuff again.
そしたら二次試験が合格来たわけだ。
And this time there was only 2 tests he had to go through, and he passed the tests. Yeah! But he doesn't want you to clap yet. It's still not where he wanted to be.
喜んで言ったらば、よし、合格だ。じゃあ、三勝の養成所が入れということになって、養成所はそれで誰でもよかったんだよね。
He says the reason the applause is so quick is because there were some people who he shouldn't have passed, and so could have been anybody. It wasn't because I was special. Anybody could have passed those tests.
鹿児島弁が抜けない俺が通ったわけだ。誰でもいいんだ。
He speaks a different type of dialect. It's not the Tokyo dialect. He speaks
そうそう。鹿児島弁。
Kagoshima. He's from originally from Kagoshima, so he speaks Kagoshima dialect, and he couldn't get that out of his system, of course.
その日活の中の養成所に一応入って、協力者をね、先輩が。
But he did join, and he was thinking that everybody could pass this anyway. But he got in. He started in the program, and he tried to get rid of his accent.
そしたらその教えてる先生があいつ熱心だということで舞台公演をやるんですよ養成所でね。そしたら選んで舞台公演やるからそれをじゃあお前やるってなって主役ですよ。
And as he was trying to get rid of his accent, the people above him, who were in charge of the air, they were looking at him and saying, "Man, this guy's really diligent. He's trying to do the best that he can." At the time, they were doing stage performances and stuff like that, and so seeing that he is really diligent, trying to master whatever it is he's trying to master and get rid of the accent, the people above him says, "We want you to come and be on the stage." And all of a sudden, he became the main actor of these stage performances.
そしたら
And he said, well, and again, you can't do anything stupid when you're the main actor. And so he felt the pressure, but he knew that he had to. And he's always very direct with everything. And so, yeah, so he knew that he had to become the best that he could for this. Same with Godzilla. You have to be very diligent with your doing. You go to attack whatever it is you're going to attack right in front of you. Yeah! 撮影者の中で公演がやるんですよ。全部公演を。お客様
を呼んで、
even at the studios, they would always have these stage performance type things in the studios. They invite people to come in to watch what they're doing. It's not an actual shoot, but it's performances, and so people would come to watch them.
そしたら、本社の日活のおいら方とかね、監督とかプロデューサーみんな見に来てたわけだ。
And even the producers, the directors of the company themselves would come to watch these performances.
あれは誰だということになっちゃって、ちょっと目立ったのかな。
And maybe I stuck out a little bit because they apparently kept asking about me.
それで本社の社長にね、人はいけないところを呼ばれていったら、
And for the first time, at the headquarters, some of the big wigs came in, and I got to go in a place where it says only certain people are allowed to go in, and they let me in. And there was a script sitting there on the table. There's a guy named Matsuo. He was the director at the time. And right out of the blue, they just said, here's the script, read it. We want you to play this part. I was very surprised. I couldn't believe that they were going to actually hand me this script. And it's a good part, too. It wasn't a kaiju. You could actually see my face in this one, so that was good. But he got to attack the main actor, or the main player then. I knew nothing about kaiju in those days. So I was very happy because they were going to use me, and I got to show my face too.
What year are we talking about right now?
それは日活に入って、43年後かな、昭和43年。
Showa 43, so at 25, so what are you looking at? 68, 1968, yeah. Okay.
それで喜んで、敵だったね。そしたら、所属が、またその下の方の日活芸能の方の所属で、その日活の専属の連中が入っちゃったもんだから。
And I got to do that. I got to show my face. It went through very well, and I became one of the. It was the lower section of the group, but I became one of the lower, not employees, but actors of the lower. There's an A and B type of group, and he became one of the actors of the lower group.
And what group was this? Was this?
うちはね、養成所から、そうそう、一軍二軍あって、二軍の方だから、それで一軍のような仕事をやるようになったから、今度日活の上の人たちが足を引っ張るわけですよ。あいつはダメだからね。
He's not really telling me exactly which one it is, but it's the lower. If there's an A and B, it's the B. And so he's in that, but because he got this great part, even though he's in the lower group, he got this great part, and so all the other actors and some of the other people are trying to pull him down, saying, "No, why are you giving it to him, man?" And so he's been teased by a lot of the other actors.
ヒットマンの役が、日活のその上手な連中がああいう反対しちゃって、自分のところに詰めていくことになっちゃったもんだから、で結局役は大井さんになったんだけど、ここに ABC になっちゃった。家になった。
And even in the script, and we're going to give him this certain part, which is a great part. Many of the other actors in the A group, they got upset about this whole thing, and so they said, nah, he's not good enough to play this part. So they got really upset about it. And so to keep everybody happy, they didn't cut the part out, but they made it very small. So he had this great chance at the beginning, and it became a very small, but he still had the chance. But it was action. I gave him some action, so that was good. He was on the action, also the acting part as well. So he's in the action as well. So he can do special effects, stuff like stunts as well.
結局はそれでヒットマンから当分家になっちゃって、 セブンのスターになったって。
And so at the time, even though he thought his big chance had come because of the other actors being against that and stuff, the big part became small, and so everything from that time on was very small for quite a while.
でもそれでもね、負けなかったね。これね、やろうなんて思ったんだよね。
But I know I passed the test this time, and I thought, no, it wasn't my face. So I said, I'm not going to lose this time, guys. I'm going to continue on. So
そう思ってね、毎日やっちゃうんだね。
So every day, bits by bits, I just kept going. I didn't worry about those people who were against me. I figured that if I continued to do what I did, sooner or later my chance would come again. So I tried to hit the... No, he's not hitting me. And because I continued to do what I did, sooner or later I did stick out in the crowd again, and the director saw that, and they made a contract with me from then on. Nice, yeah. Yeah, nice, yeah. Yeah. This is a life story for all of you. If you continue to do something, sooner or later you will get it. Yeah.
専属経営になって、その下の方から専属になった第1号ですよ。あとに何でしなかったの？1号って。
So in that company, even though there are people still against it the whole time, he was the first, actually the first one to get a contract to work, and so he's the first, very first one. Wow. And so after you got the contract, you think you could be excited about this now, don't you? And then all of a sudden there were parts that were starting to come my way. Yeah, and even his father was also excited. Apparently his father was against him in the past, but now he's very excited for him as well. He didn't tell his father he had quit the steel company. So. I said, I'm finally coming up, and I'm finally going up in the ranks. He didn't tell him that it wasn't the company, steel company. He knew that if he told him, his father would have said, don't quit the steel job. As soon as he got the contract and these great jobs were starting to come in, the company itself was having hard times. There are a lot of children here, so I can't really say it, but the company itself, Nakajima, was doing all these different movies, action movies. It went into another area. The other big convention centers, sometimes they have those. I think you understand what I'm talking about? Yeah, but the ears of the kids. But I want to perform, I want to do my best. I said, well, why don't you take your clothes off? But it might have been a good part, so you actually thought about it. I was thinking, you know, should I not? The big star in Japan, I wanted to be like him, so maybe this is part of what I have to do. I still want to be an action star, so maybe this is the start. Never got an action, yeah. But then he cuts the company itself, and because of where it was, where it was standing, it started to go crazy, yeah. And when I finally thought of it, after looking at myself and thinking about it, you know, becoming naked is really not my cup of tea.
そしたらその頃ね、ミフネプロダクション。
And at that time, as you just mentioned, Kyle, the Mifune production came up to be.
はい。先輩がいて、じゃあお前にちょっと私だったら10来いということで、ミフネプロダクション
And it's seen as you don't want to take off your clothes, one of his friends at Mifune said, "Why don't you come to Mifune?"
世界のミフネのね、老人坊じゃないけど、この、これ、好きでね、
And everybody knew who Mifune was, and the Yobonjin, the bodyguard, is that what it's called?
Well, we're talking about Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah.
Very famous Japanese star.
Yeah, and so he, again, it's like the other superstar that he looked up to, he said, wow, that's a great action star and everything else. So becoming like him would also be great.
で、ミフネプロへ行って、手の練習とか、アクションをやって、もともとはテニスがやってたから。
And so he, again, he was able to get in there, and then they started him into action. So he'd take, as you maybe have seen him on his videos on Facebook, he's beating the crap out of these bamboo poles and stuff. They would put him through that kind of preparation.
で、アクションも東宝映画は1分の間なんかいい。
At the time, Mifune and Toho were very close friends, and so they had a lot of connections and doing things together.
Ah, I see, nice.
And so he also was able to make a contract with Mifune's production, and they were close to Toho, and so there was work that was going to come. It wasn't a very good part, but it was a start. For instance, I would just jump into the water, and they say cut, and that was the end of the scene. But because I continued doing it and everybody could see my diligence, I was sticking out in the crowd. So, yeah.
それでやってるうちにね、ミフネプロに帰ったら、しばらく経って、撮影所の方から老後実質的に、当時中山天狗って言ったから、
And as he continued to do these small parts, he just continued without complaining, just continued doing it. He stuck out in the crowd. One day he came back and he got a call from the Toho themselves. And then they...
それはね、仲間、それはね、ミフネプロダクションで、昔からそれ、皆さんに絡んでアクションやったり、そういう芝居、必要会というのが。
Okay, there's a group that was in Mifune, and he said somebody's name, and I'm sorry, it went right by. But anyway, because of the guy, him saying you should come in, the Toho people himself all of a sudden got interested in him.
で、そこのリーダーが、かの用心棒の竹内。
And the sensei, the teacher who's in charge of these certain movies, the Bojin and everything like that, he's the one who was interested in. Yaro, the word yaro means I'm just going to do it in Japanese, and so whatever was going to happen, I was just going to do my best. So yaro, and so it started getting closer to Toho because of these good timing situations. And so the exact same thing when Toho called him up, says all I got to do is just yaro, I just got to do it. So he was very direct, and he knew what it was. The goal was in front of him, and he went for it.
That's very cool, thank you. Thanks.
And so again, he would stick out in the crowd. They say, "Who's that fool over there?" But it was himself, and people, even though he said that, he would stick out in the crowd. So people kept asking about him. And so, whatever it is that using your body or for action or whatever it is, there's one thing that he can do well, and that was the action and moving with his body. So he had confidence in that. So he just went straight for that. And so the word came from Toho too, the Mifune production that let him come to Toho. And the word was that he got it from the bigwigs in Mifune's production. Says, hey, they're interested in you. There's probably a perfect part for you as well.
当時撮影所の近くに住んでましたから
I live near the studios itself.
喜んで撮影所行ったね
And I was very happy because I got to go to the Toho studios.
はっきりはっきりっつって行ったんですよでキャスティングを決める演技学のがあるんでね台本の
There's a casting group area there, and so they go in there to decide what the next casting for the next movie will be.
そこ行ったら「お来たか」言われてたよねあの人が「来たか」
And it just seems like the cycle came again. You finally get another chance to walk in there, and then there's all these guys, these really cocky people who've already, they're famous and this and that, and so it all started again. But he was finally in the doors.
でスタッフルームで監督回ってると行け
And these cocky people, they looked at me, but they said, the director's waiting for you, so go over there.
もうこれは監督に一人だとこれはもう間違いないと思うわねだって
And then when you feel like the director's calling you, you know something good is going to happen.
喜んでスタッフルームに行ってドアタンタン
He probably doesn't need an explanation, but yeah, and so he got himself really cleaned up. He was very looking nice, and he went and knocked on the door.
叩いて入ります三船プロから来ました中山健吾と申します入ります入っていったんですよ
And so he knocked on the door, and before opening it, he said his name and where he was from, and then he opened the door and walked into the room.
いい役だからね
Because it should be a good role that he's going to get.
印象を与えちゃダメだと思うから味方のこともあるしキュッとしてそして大きな声で
First impression is the best impression, the number one important impression, so I had to be very big, very strong, and show them what I was there for business.
で本日はお呼びいただいてありがとうございます三船プロから来た
I came from Mifune, and thank you for inviting me, and this is my name.
よろしくお願いします
Please accept my regards.
シャッとしてねそしたらキラッと見て本当ね待ってるんだけど言わない
I did my little speech. I was looking good. I was walked in, a big voice. I thought my first impression was great. Director's looking right at me, and he's not saying anything. Just sitting there.
言わない監督黙ってそれ
He's just moving his head up and down, but he's not saying a word.
もうこれはますますいいやつだこっちから聞いた監督
And so I said, so, because he was not saying anything, I asked him, I said, is there a good part for me?
監督は言わないならこっちから言おうと思ってね
He's not going to say something. I'm going to say something.
監督入ってください
Director, please, explain it to me.
やってねぴったりだとこう言うんですよ
And then finally, he opened his word and he said one word. He said, pitari, which means perfect.
君なら OK だって言ったらますます喜んだね
And so, and he said it was perfect. Oh, the only word he said was perfect. I was very happy.
君なら大丈夫だ OK だって言ったら何の役ですか
I was really happy, and he said I was perfect for the part, but then he said, wait a minute, I don't know what the part is. What is the part?
喜ぶね何の役ですか君はぴったりだ怪獣ヘガラリーだったから
And so, having been in all these little parts, and his face was showing he was going to become the next superstar, and we finally found out what is the part. He says, well, you're going to play Hydra. Wait a minute, I don't even know what a Hydra is.
宇宙から飛んできて静岡県の田子の裏に落ちてきて
It's something that came from this outer space and hit Shizuoka, and it's there in Shizuoka. Yeah, yeah.
そこでゴミとか硫酸とかいろんな
And it's picking up garbage and stuff on its way, all the way through the city.
ゴミをたらふく食べて大きくなるゴジラの最大の敵だなんて言われ
And
て
he's going to take on Godzilla, but any monster that has to eat garbage on the way to get bigger, I just don't know about this.
いやもうびっくりしましたね
I was very surprised.
君なら大丈夫だ
But then the director he wouldn't shut up and everything. You're perfect for the part. You're perfect for the part.
求めてないねこっちは
And now I'm not as happy as I was before.
どうぞやってくれるかって言うんですよ
And then he just simply asked, "Will you do it for us?
でちょっと待ってください
Please wait a second."
帰りましたもうしょぼしょぼと帰った
Oh, and he went home.
なあ
He's going to think about it.
人間プロダクションの事務所に行ってみんなに報告しました
So I went to Mifune Production. I went to the head office, and I went and told him what just happened.
そしたらおおやったか怪獣は怪獣でもねゴジラの敵だからこれが目立つよ
And so they said, "Yeah, well, we think it's a good idea. I mean, it is the enemy of Godzilla, and you'll stick out whether they see your face or not.
一本ぐらいやってみろって言われてるからな
At least try one movie. Try to be in at least one movie. You should just do it."
ニュースの偉い人にね
The bigwigs of the Mifune Production told me to do it.
うんえ
Really?
あれなんて言うから内職でやらばいいよなんてね
And he says, "Well, is the money good?"
やれ一本ぐらいやれ
Doesn't matter. Just do it.
しょうがないんだからね会社のライブがいるんだからもうしょうがないからもうね嫌だったけどじゃあ一本だけやります
Okay, well, if you're telling me to and they want me to, okay, I'll at least do one movie. Okay, just one movie, just one.
それがヘドラなんです
And that was Hydra.
ヘドラを引き受けたけど着ぐるみとかそういうの知らないから合わせに行くわけですよ
And of course, I didn't know what Hydra was. I didn't know anything about the suits or anything like that. And so when I had to go there and had to fit me for it.
皆さんも子供の頃に怪獣を作る倉庫みたいなところがあって伝統のね東方伝統のね
As you all know, that the Toro is legendary for making these type of suits.
ここ行ったら身長
So they're taking all my sizes, my height, and everything else.
全部サイズ測るんです
They take everything, all the sizes, everything. Yeah.
全て
Even around his wrists, around his whole body, everything. They take all the sizes.
作って集められたとしたらよしこれで集められ作ってあっていうのできると今度はこの合わせを着ぐるみ合わせをやるから
And there's the stages of making the whole thing. So they take all the sizes to make something at the beginning, and then he has to go and get fitted for that, and then again and again.
で泳ぎがかかって造形になります
And they called me to come again, and they had one of the I don't know, it was the end product, one of the first parts of the product there that he had to go and see.
当時はね造形でも職人がいてね、結構新人だからやれとか書いてるねすごいんですよ
Because he was new, he didn't know anything was going on. Actually, that's a good thing because you don't know what's going on, so that everybody tells you what to do. So.
特にね造形の責任者である安丸君がいるんですよ安丸知ってもらいますよ鬼安というんだけど日本とかね安丸なんかな知ってる人いないかな造形作ってる伝統の造形作ってる
I'm sorry, it's a famous person who made the different models and stuff at the time. I don't know his name actually, but somebody famous who was making this.
作りながら焼酎を飲みながら
And as they would call me in every so often, the very famous, one of the masters of these, the makers of these suits, he would be drinking sake as he was making these things. He'd just be drinking and making, drinking and making, drinking and making. And he's got the suit on, and this guy's drinking and just adding things, so he's basically forgetting he's even in the suit. But it's really heavy, and so he starts moving a little bit as well, and this guy's drunk, so he's moving anyway, so it doesn't look like he's moving at all because he's moving. And he says, wait a minute, stop moving! Okay, the master's name, he has his own name, but they would call him Oninasu. It's kind of like a demon because he was always drinking, always ripping on us about all kinds of stuff. Now I understand what he's trying to say. Okay. Even now they use the name rarely, very many times, because every time they think he's a demon now too, or the guys who are making the suits are demons too. It doesn't matter who's inside or outside the suit, one of them becomes the demon. The same master, the suit maker, he started with Hedro and up to 1984 Godzilla, so he made a lot of them. He's still alive now, and he's since, of course, retired, but I see him every so often as well. When it gets down to basically the guy that's inside the suit has to be very quiet and not move around, actually. And I should have been smarter because I started moving around, and that's why they always got on my case. One thing I did at the time, though, after all these experiences, I started writing a journal about everything from the position of being inside the suit, looking out through the holes at what they're doing around me. And so a lot of times you forget I'm even in the suit, so you get a lot of good material for your book, if you're a journal. And so he's go, oh, I'm going to use this against you. That's good. Yeah. He writes it all down. So, and even after he became Godzilla as well, he continued to write the journal. Again, he's inside the suit, people forget he's there, and every so often really good-looking women come to the studio as well. And he's inside the suit, they don't know he's inside the suit.
Chicks and they don't even know it's
But he's really happy that these good-looking girls would come because it's so hot inside and he's not supposed to move. They're still fitting him for another one of these suits and stuff like that. But he looks at a good-looking girl and he forgets for a moment that he's really hot. And then he gets hot in another way. And he writes it all down. And he's writing all these things down, and every so often he gets interviewed in newspapers and stuff.
担当者これ中の人が中から外を見た世界を書いてありました。言った人がいない。
And whenever he'd be interviewed by some people, they would say, well, what do you think about this? And he'd bring out his journal and pop in there and say, just read that right there. So, wow, this is pretty cool. A guy from inside talking about the outside world. This is pretty cool.
それを見た編集者が、雑誌の編集者が、面白いですね。これ、こにしましょう。なった。
And so a lot of these things actually became articles from a lot of stuff that was written in his journal. So, yeah. There's the one page has a certain amount of kanji right on it, so he was writing about 40 pages. I'm sure he has more, but 40 pages at the time for these things. Yeah. Okay, all right. But he had everything in the journal, and so he was able to show these people very easily what he had and things they liked, they used, things they didn't like, they could take out very easily. But it was very easy to interview him because I had all the information written down. ちょっと皆さんの質問をちょっといろいろ聞きたいです。He says that the story goes on and on and on, but we're running out of time, so I'll stop for now.
I did want to ask one question, specifically about you. This was your first time working as Hedra, right? Sorry, your first time in a kaiju suit playing Hedra. It was also your first time, was it your first time meeting Nakajima-san?
Yes, it's the first time I met Nakajima as well, when he was Hedra. Inside or outside the suit, he always walked like he had something to prove. And everybody forgave him because he was Godzilla. But I had various things I was thinking about, but because I was the new face there, I couldn't really say anything except, yeah, that's cool, yeah. Hedra is really heavy anyway, so it's very hard for me to move. And because Hedra isn't able to move, there's no way he could really become an enemy to Godzilla, is what Nakajima said to him. Even in or outside the suit, he's fighting with him, so it's right. It didn't matter what I was. Of course, Nakajima was the original. He was the pro. I was the amateur at the time. But when it came to the kaiju fights and stuff, I became my own man, even in Hedra. So I did it my way. And doing Hedra, because he wasn't able to move very much, he didn't think he'd actually done a very good job because he wanted to do more, but he couldn't move very much. But again, the word pitari came out, which means perfect, perfect, perfect. And so that led to the next job. And of course, then Gaigan came, so it was just the next step. And so he had thought he'd done a great job, but they had thought he didn't, that he was perfect for the next one. So Gaigan was the next step. And when he had said he was going to do one movie, he didn't want to do more than one, he just wanted to do one. But when the second story came, and during the minute of the first making as well, he saw all the people working so hard, getting dirty, sweating, trying to help him move in his action, trying to make the whole thing work. He saw that and it hit him in the heart. And he knew that these people were trying their hardest to make the best thing they could, and he had to do his best. And that's why, well, I'm not going to finish with one after all. I think I'll continue on. So.
We don't have very much time left, unfortunately, and we haven't even gotten to you playing Godzilla yet. I guess for the audience, we're just going to keep going, right? Yeah! So very quickly, can you talk a little bit about you playing Godzilla in the Heisei era?
I'll make it short. I'll make it short. We don't have a lot of time. I'll make it short. After the 84th Godzilla, the Heisei era came. And from 84 on, I was Godzilla, and I was considered the Heisei Godzilla. Mr. Kawakita and his daughter is here this year as well, but you remember Mr. Kawakita, of course? Yes. He was the one that made the first movie for the Heisei era. He was really worried about the whole thing, and he was starting the whole Heisei series. There was a time when Toho was thinking about continuing or getting rid of Godzilla as well, and so there's a lot of pressure on Mr. Kawakita at the time. And he knew that he had a lot of pressure, but he never got there was no call to him to come and play Godzilla, so he was worried that he wasn't going to even be part of the Heisei series. And when he thought he was all said and done, when nothing was going to come, he called me. And at the time, because he hadn't called me yet, I really hated the guy. And the director himself as well, when they got together, he finally called him. Of course, he didn't really hate him, but the director himself also said, "Yeah, I don't like you much either." It was more the face value type of thing, where he didn't call me so that I hate that guy. He's just kind of saying it out of his mouth. He didn't really mean it. And Kawakita said the same thing back, and I don't like you either. But the staff and the mass media, they got a hold of it and said, these guys really hate each other, so stay away from them. The word os means good morning. It also means hello, how are you? They just say os, and so they actually didn't hate each other at all. But with the mass media and everything going, and it just so happened that his office was on the other side of the studio, and his place where he was also on the other side. So the mass media and the staff, of course, thought that they had done that on purpose to stay away from each other. And so we just walked by each other and go, os, os. We just say it with two words. Yeah, they're not saying much to each other, but we really didn't hate each other at all. So. But just to set the whole thing straight for all of you and for all the mass media in Japan as well, we didn't really hate each other at all. We just played what you guys were telling us to play. That actually made us both stronger and made us very diligent in what we wanted to do, and the Heisei series we think was very successful. Yeah.
り終えて、平成ゴジラ終わったら、もうゴジラやったということで、監督も天国行っちゃったんですよ。で、経過相手がいないんで、平成ゴジラのことは語るけど、このことは語れないということで、本人に言ったとおります。
Right? And Heisei Godzilla was a success. Mr. Kawakita has since gone to heaven, but I was the Heisei Godzilla. We made some very good memories. We made some very good movies. And I think Kawakita-san is looking down at us right now and applauding this whole thing because Godzilla is still loved and the Heisei series is loved as well. So thank you very much.